editing pony reviews sure doesn't pay the bills like I hoped. Especially when I spend the money I make from that on video games. It's times like these that call for desperate measures. Hello? Megalo Money Marketing? Yeah, I'd like to order one serving of selling out. Keep the shame on the side. Okay, when should I be expecting? Oh man, a demon just popped out of my Verizon Wireless Boost mobile cricket phone. $99 a month, unlimited talk, and unlimited text. I sure hope they didn't touch my Star Platinum brand Apple Watch laptop with Intel Core processing. Buy two, get the Angry Birds movie free. Video games are expensive to make, and sometimes you have to sell a little ad space if you want to make your dream a reality. These are 10 instances of real-world products or brands appearing in games that I think are significant. Whether they puzzled me, pissed me off, or maybe even made me smile. But before that, some rules. I don't want the commentary police hounding me for not making my intentions 100% clear. Hey TP, what's up? I'm only going to cover non-video game cameos and cross-promotions. Crossovers are a dime a dozen in video games, and even if they were for the sole purpose of advertising an upcoming game, it's still just a crossover of two existing games years down the line. I'm also not going to cover games that are centered around a certain brand, only independent series that happen to feature a real-world product. Sorry, Pepsi Man fans. I'm WatchMojo, I'm Wave Runner, and this is the top 10 product placements in games, brought to you by the refreshing taste of Coca-Cola.
Hey, let's start the game!
The beast has awoken and is rampaging down the East Coast. Eldritch mutants from the swamps are terrorizing the citizens of New Marais. The fate of the world is in your hands. Doesn't that make you hungry for lunch? As with most forms of media in a modern setting, video games are set in a parallel world that either feature a plethora of generic brands that may vaguely resemble our own, or a single brand from our world that sticks out like a sore thumb, but is only there because the sponsorship deal pays nice. The first infamous, despite being set in an obvious parallel to New York City, aka Capitalism Central, had a surprising lack of any notable advertisements. Infamous 2, on the other hand, also doesn't have any real notable advertisements, other than the hilarious porn movie titles that spoof other games released around that time. The game does, though, have in-game renderings of the fast food sandwich chain Subway. Like with every other building in the game, Cole can't go inside, leaving this as a fairly shallow product placement, but its presence is jarring enough to warrant a spot on this list. In the same world that you have superpowered mutants, racist southern militias with nukes, and a film called Latchet and Skank, you can find comfort in the fact that you can still eat at a mediocre food chain.
Hungry?
Starving!
Silly guy.
The Metal Gear series is one that I've only gotten into fairly recently, and one that has taken me a while to trudge through. I beat a majority of the original Metal Gear Solid before rage quitting on that Rex boss, but I did manage to beat the entirety of Metal Gear Solid 2, despite almost rage quitting on the Horde of Rays. Despite my struggles, I did enjoy the overall atmosphere and story of the series, and immediately moved on to Metal Gear Solid 3 for about 20 minutes. I do plan to continue with the game one of these days, but I'm too busy working and playing Overwatch. But even with the short time I've played the game, I've already come across something worthy of being on this list. When you are first dropped into the jungles of Russia, your starting survival kit features a strange little snack called a calorie mate. Such a weird name caught my attention, and I soon discovered after some research that Calorie Mate is a real-life brand of nutritious snacks in Japan. Now, this being a Hideo Kojima game, of course there's some mind-fucking twist to something as innocent as a snack. That twist being that this game is set in 1964, and the Calorie Mate was created in 1983. But wait, this rabbit hole goes deeper. In 1998, the same year the original Metal Gear Solid came out, the puzzle action masterpiece, No One Can Stop Mr. Domino, featured a Calorie Mate box as a set piece. Coincidence? I think? Probably.
Yes! Yes! No! Move! Let me through! Everyone, let me through! You idiot!
I love going to amusement parks, but I'm absolutely terrified of roller coasters. In my defense, it's a pretty rational fear when you think about it. Is traveling at high speed along a raised metal rail something someone who isn't crazy would want to do? I'm either the only sane person left in the world, or I'm just a dirty coward. But wait! Thanks to the infinite power of video games, this coward can be the one controlling your beloved Darwinian death traps. Sure, I could settle on managing imaginary fantasy theme parks, but why settle on fake simulations when I could have fake simulations based on real places? Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 features several scenarios based on popular theme park chain Six Flags. Now, I've only been to one Six Flags in my life, located in the dark, dangerous pits of Great Adventure in New Jersey. But even if I've never been to most of these parks, there's an allure in being able to appreciate the elaborate planning that went into creating these elaborate parks, and learning the intricacies of multi-million-dollar management. And when I get bored of all this intellectual stuff, I can just rig the rides to kill my customers and watch my profit burn in a glorious blaze. When I was a wee little ball bearing, I was a huge fan of ice hockey. One day, my dad took me to a Rangers game at Madison Square Garden. We got there extra early, and were just chilling around when a mysterious man approached me. It was the Donald J. Trump, asking me if I wanted to be his vice president when he took over the world. Nah, just kidding. One of the garden staff asked if I wanted to ride the Zamboni in between periods, and I did. It was fun. Even though they got my name wrong when I showed up on the Jumbotron. Oh, that's right! This is about video games! The Zamboni is one of the more intimidating foes you face in the tower defense game Plants vs. Zombies. Like the lawnmower that mows down every zombie in its path, the Zamboni instantly crushes any plant unlucky enough to be in its way, and leave an icy path that can't even be planted on. Luckily, it's as slow as an actual Zamboni would be.
Tell me where your fucking boss is, or you're gonna die! In 5 minutes!
And can be easily defeated by an explosive, squash, or spikeweed. And before any of you say that this really wouldn't count as product placement, let's take a look at this guy's bio.
Not to be mistaken with the Zamboni brand ice resurfacing machine. Zamboni and the image of the ice resurfacing machine are registered trademarks of Frank J. Zamboni and Company Incorporated, and Zamboni is used with permission. For all your non-zombie related ice resurfacing needs, visit www.zamboni.com. I invented the Zamboni in 1914 as a way to plow through the Axis force trenches on the Russian front in the Great War. My invention was deemed inhumane by the Geneva Convention, and thus it was decommissioned from war for good. Luckily, the infamous blood sport of hockey was seeking out an efficient way to keep their ice arenas in tip-top shape in the aftermath of a costly game. My ice-laying machine now primarily serves as a utility purpose, and sometimes a child transportation service. But, on a rare occasion, crafty hockey warriors will utilize my life's work with its intended purpose, and flatten both foe and friend to come on top as the Stanley Master.
One of my favorite childhood games to play on my original Xbox was Kung Fu Chaos, a 4-player fighting game set in old-school kung fu movies and a few contemporary genres. I wish I could play it, but my OG Xbox is broken, and all I can play on my 360 is f***ing sneakers! Oh, and much as Odyssey 2, I guess. That was a good game! This entry in the Oddworld series deviated from its cinematic platformer origins, and instead went for a 3D action adventure for the new console generation. Several key gameplay elements were brought back and expanded upon from Abe's last adventure, including game speak, possession, and, for the sake of this entry, vending machines, or vendos as the game likes to call it. In the last game, you could drink the highly addictive Soulstorm brew to fart, possess your fart, and then use your fart to blow up sligs. Munch's Odyssey features a plethora of unique vendors that grant our heroes temporary abilities to help them through the precarious industrial environments. These include Bounce, Aqua Bounce, Espresso, Soulbee Energy, Zap. Wait, go back for a second. Bounce and Aqua Bounce are separate power-ups? That's dumb. Almost as dumb as the fact there is a Soulbee energy drink in the game. What the hell? Yep, that's right. Oddworld, possibly one of the most anti-corporate themed games on the market, actually had product placement in its game. But don't worry about hypocrisy. The Oddworld staff personally investigated Soulbee and made sure they both had fair labor and were friendly to the environment. The only crime this drink is guilty of is being surprisingly nutritious, so sip up. Unless you're playing the PAL or HD remake versions of the game, then you have to make do with the bland, generic health vendo instead of the delicious fruity taste of Soulbee Elixir or Red Reserve Midnight Mojito. Soulbee, give me free stuff! Real-life brands of cars and racing games is nothing new. Plenty of people like realism in their games, and there's nothing more realistic than street racing that dream sports car you'll never be able to afford. But what happens when you add a realistic car that you can drive to work in to a cartoony world where people throw bombs at each other? From the creators of Shark Tale, DreamWorks, Cop Car and Duloc, rated PG. Back in 2014, Nintendo teamed up with Mercedes-Benz to produce a series of commercials for the car company. They are pretty creative and hilarious, so I give them a thumbs up. It's certainly a much better car commercial than...
I can see into your mind. So you're interested in a Ford Fusion Titanium?
This fusion, it's unbelievable.
Anyway, as a part of a cross-promotional deal, Nintendo added 3 cards based off Mercedes-Benz vehicles to Mario Kart 8. Now, the Silver Arrow and SL Roadster meld with the game's aesthetics pretty nicely, having designs similar to carts like the Mach 8 and Bandwagon, respectively. The GLA, on the other hand, sticks out like the CDI, being a mini hyper-realistic modern car in a game filled with various cartoony and retro-styled vehicles. It's like if all the neighborhood kids are playing on bikes and scooters, and some snooty rich kid rolls in with his mini Ferrari. May look kinda cool on its own, but you look like an asshole for driving it. You can also do some precision platforming with the GLA and Mario Maker, something that reflects the real-life car's spring-loaded tires that allow you to skip over traffic and jump over chasms without a ramp. Try it for yourself! We've talked about realistic cars in the crazy-as-hell fantasy world. What happens when you put some crazy-as-hell fantasy cars into an even crazier fantasy world? From the creators of B-Movie and A Cop Car and Duloc, Cop Car 2, Zootopia, rated R. As a celebration of October 21st, 2015, the day Marty McFly traveled to the future, finally hitting, Rocket League added the iconic DeLorean time machine to their roster of over-the-top vehicles. Similarly, around the release of the landmark Supreme Court case Batman v Superman, the constantly evolving but timeless Batmobile was added as well. Stats in this game are a little bit vague, but from what I can gather, the DeLorean plays about the same as most other vehicles, while the Batmobile has slightly higher stats than average. I can also appreciate the level of detail they put into each of these legendary cars, especially the DeLorean, with its flipping hover tires, time sparks, and signature flame trail. When I got the game, this DLC was an instant purchase for me. Also, did you know that apparently $2 DLC that you keep forever is apparently pay to win now? I guess Smash is filled with nothing but pay to win whales. With Callie vs. Marie marking the end of Splatfest and Splatoon as a whole, let's take the time to reflect on the times that the Squid Sisters decide to sell out and take advantage of impressionable children. Now, this entry isn't about the Squid Girl DLC. It's just a single small costume that admittedly melds with the game's aesthetics pretty well. We're talking about the Splatfest themselves. The product placement in the UK and States wasn't so bad. In fact, it was kind of awesome. The licensed Splatfests were based on things children and adults playing the game likely already enjoyed. The iconic battle of good versus evil, with Autobots versus Decepticons. Finally getting some SpongeBob content in this nautical game with SpongeBob vs. Patrick. Though I'm pretty upset we never got any Squidward DLC. And need I say anything about the Pokemon Splatfest? There was also one based on Miitomo, but without the name attached, it could have easily just been another generic Splatfest. Going over to Japan, on the other tentacle, you'll find that things get much more corporate. When over half of your Splatfests have trademarks next to them, you know something is up. With the exception of the admittedly awesome Healing vs. Full Frontal Attack Splatfest themed around Dragon Quest, a whopping 6 Japanese exclusive Splatfests are based around licensed food products. And it's no class of brands either. That might have actually been interesting. It's literally just 2 of the same products with different flavors. Kirin brand lemon tea versus Kirin brand milk tea. Trick question. Sobe is superior to both. Murachin brand Red Kitsune versus Murachin brand Green Tanuki. Murachin brand Red Kitsune versus Murachin brand Green Tanuki for a second time. And look at this shit. Karazushi had to go and ruin one of the most anticipated Splatfests ever, Squids versus Octopi, and made it about their fucking sashimi. Their fucking sashimi. Sashimi. Is it sashimi? Sashimi.
Cool off with a super big gulp drink at your local 7-Eleven.
Ah? I want to have the ah.
Okay, you shall have it. Thunder, lightning!
Damn, I had to burp. At least I burped this time. Welcome to a segment I like to call Screw the Rules, I'm the Boss. I mentioned that one of the rules for this list was that I wouldn't be including cross-promotions from other video games, because video game crossovers are a very common occurrence. But one game and I'm sure many of you have played, takes cross-promotion to such ludicrous levels that I was unaware I was experiencing it half the time. That game is
Team Fortress 2.
You thought the Splatfest wiki page was bad? Take a look at this cross-promotion wiki page. That's over 80 separate cross-promotional deals, a majority of them from non-Valve developed games. Now, for a majority of cosmetic items, it's pretty easy to spot the promotional ones. I highly doubt that the Alien Cranium and Arkham Cowl were completely original designs created by a Valve prodigy. Some of the more generic-looking clothing pieces can easily sneak by a capitalist sense, but by far, the most deceptive promotional items in Hat Market Simulator with some shooting are the common and plentiful equipable weapons. You know the Machina, the sniper rifle that forces you to zoom in to shoot, making noob snipers who think they are hot even more of a detriment to your team? That gun is from Deus Ex, which should make much more sense in hindsight when you combine the two names. The Widowmaker, Short Circuit, and Diamondback are directly from that series as well. Okay, what about the Neon Annihilator? Surely, it's just a clever way to add some electricity to Pyro's fiery arsenal. Nope! Sleeping Dogs, which also includes the Red Tape Recorder, Hugh Long Heather, and, my personal favorite, the Flying Guillotine. Other promotional weapons that I see in normal play include the Fortified Compound, Half Zatoichi and Carnivor's Kunai, Sharpened Volcano Fragment and Sun on a Stick, Rumham Shank, the Frying Pan, and, as a reference to Team Fortress's humble origins as a mod, the original. As I've stated before, product placement isn't necessarily a bad thing. These items are originally rewards for buying certain games on Steam and can now be acquired randomly or traded for easily within the game, albeit without a fancy, genuine, or vintage label attached. Plus, there's nothing quite like wearing an Octodad hat while using the flamethrower from Aliens to burn a heavy cosplaying as Brock Sampson.
Take it from me.
Most of the product placements listed before served their single simple purpose of advertising before moving along its merry way, whether it be through a quick cameo appearance, DLC that didn't alter much of the core game in any way, or even the occasional enhancement that only sticks around for a single game. But one instance of product placement easily stands out above the rest. It not only enhanced the game it appeared in, but the series as a whole. In Sonic Adventure 2, instead of the usual Michael Jackson-inspired sneakers, Sonic donned a pair of Soap brand high-speed shoes. In the late 90s, Soap was popular for producing shoes with a slippery plastic plate in the arch of the foot. This allowed wearers to grind on rails and other thin surfaces. Obviously, the craze didn't last too long, as a shoe that encourages jumping onto slippery objects at high speeds is a million lawsuits waiting to happen. They were soon brought out by Heelys, responsible for producing the legal liability shoe of the early 2000s, before fading into obscurity, or so they thought. Sonic's pumped-up kicks allow him to run from gun more efficiently by granting him the unique ability to grind on rails, a skill that complemented the high-speed action the Sonic series was known for. Unsurprisingly, the licensing agreement ran out along with Soap's money, and all mentions of the brand were removed from later versions of the game. Luckily, Soap didn't hold a copyright on the actual act of grinding on a rail, which is nice considering the game would be literally unbeatable without the mechanic. The devs liked the rail grinding concept so much that it basically became a staple of the series, along with spin dashing and terrifying drowning music. Ask anyone what game they think of when they think of rail grinding. They'll probably say Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Ask them again though, and they'll probably say Grand Theft Auto. Ask a third time though, and I guarantee you there's about a 60% chance they'll say Sonic. That is the legacy of a gimmicky shoe company from the 90s.
What the f is going on?
I'm underwater. Look, I found a treasure.
A treasure? That's soap on a rope.
It's a treasure.
Get out of my goddamn scuba gear, you imbecile!
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed my strange idea for a countdown. For anyone who stuck around this long, please feel free to vote on what you think I should do for my next countdown in the Strawpoll below. Both are going to be much shorter, but hopefully will come out relatively quick. After voting, check out this Pokemon Stadium 2 Randomizer Let's Play featuring Pokepikoo and Wambu. It's a crime this playthrough doesn't have more views. It's glorious. I also edit horses from time to time, so if you like ponies, check out these analysis videos I help bring to life and snuck JoJo references into. Finally, this is not my first tango in the Countdown community. If you want to see my younger self from 2 years ago deadpanly rage at Smash, check it out here.
You're doing pretty good. Have a Pepsi.